In this episode, we have come to a very important stage of the game, which is called the end game. The end game begins when the queens are off the board. Pragya, I am going to now start with some very basic pawn endgames. The pawn endgames mean how to win with a king and a king versus king and with few pawns on the board. Now, I have shown you some very basic thing. This is called the kings are in opposition. Okay, so when the kings face each other, now the king obviously cannot come close to each other. That's an illegal move. Yes. So this is the closest they can come to each other. So this is called an opposition. Now in opposition, this is a straight opposition. There is also a diagonal opposition. Okay, but we are not going to go into the diagonal opposition in this episode. We'll start with some very basic stuff. Now, let me teach you about key squares. Okay, now what key squares mean? Now the pawn is on d5. So we have to leave one rank away and then focus on the square right in front of it, that is the d7 square, and then the two adjacent squares. Okay, so basically these three squares are called the key squares. Now can you tell me what are the key squares when the pawn is here using the same principle?
These three squares.
Very good. So we just have to go leave one rank, go to the next square, and then the two adjacent squares. So these three squares are the key squares. Now what does the key square mean? If the side with an extra pawn, he can get the king to one of the key squares, then he wins. If he is not able to reach the key squares, then it is a draw. Okay, so let's see how it happens in action. Now let's say we have the king in the key square already. Now this position is a win or a draw?
Win.
Okay, so can you play for white?
Okay. Yes.
So I move my king. Yeah. So now this process is called outflanking. Now the king was controlling the key squares. Now the pawn has come to the fifth rank. The key squares have changed. So the new key squares are e7, d7 and c7.
Yes.
Now if I go to the right, the king outflanks. This is called outflank. Now if I move the king to the queen,